You ever felt like your brain is just running on outdated, buggy software,
Oh, constantly.
right? Like the default programming installed by your culture, or bad habits, or, maybe even early childhood experiences.
Yeah, the stuff you just assume is permanent hardware.
Exactly. But what if you didn't have to just live with those glitches? What if you could write your own code, open up your own biological wetware, and intentionally overwrite it?
It's a wild concept.
It is. And today, we are doing a deep dive into the May 2026 chat logs of a man who spent 60 years doing exactly that, treating his own brain as a programmable hard drive.
It's such a fascinating premise because, we treat our phones and computers as endlessly upgradable, right? We're constantly downloading patches for bugs.
Yeah, there's always a new update.
Right. But we tend to treat our own minds as fixed, static hardware. And these chat logs, they're between a man named David Earl Jones and an AI named Grok. They detail what he calls mental software and redevelopmental psychology.
Which sounds super academic, but it's really not.
No, not at all. It's not just a theory. It is a multi-decade engineering project that he field tested on himself. He scaled it up from this single, childhood limitation all the way to a theoretical framework for upgrading the entire human OS.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really grasp the mechanics of this grand theory, we have to start with the deeply personal crisis that birthed it.
Right, the origin story.
Yeah, we have to go back to 1966.
Yeah.
David is 6 years old, and he has a severe limitation. He is a profound stutterer and selectively mute.
Wow.
But he desperately wants to spend time with his dad. And his dad, he spent his weekends fixing cars and appliances.
Which, created a very specific logistical constraint back in 1966.
Oh yeah, the parts stores.
Exactly. If
Yeah.
you were fixing a car on a weekend and needed a part, you had to get it on Saturday. Because auto parts stores were strictly closed on Sundays.
So there is zero margin for error here.
Yeah.
If David wants to be useful, if he wants to earn that time with his dad, he has to be the one to call the parts stores on Saturday morning.
A 6-year-old.
A 6-year-old who physically freezes up when he tries to speak. If he stammers, if the guy on the other end hangs up, the call fails. No part. The weekend is ruined.
So much pressure.
Right. So he doesn't just try to, try harder. He engineers a solution. He reverse engineers exactly what the parts counter needs to hear and collapses it into a single, high-precision, verbal payload.
Price and availability.
Yes,
Yeah.
price and availability.
And the precision there is the key to the whole framework. He didn't ask, do you have this?
Because that's not enough data.
Right. If he only asked for the price, it might be cheap but out of stock. If he only asked for availability, it might be there but way too expensive. He needed both data points to secure the weekend.
He rehearsed that specific phrase over and over until it completely bypassed his stutter. It's exactly like programming a macro or a hotkey on a computer.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, like if you have a broken keyboard, say your spacebar and your val keys are totally jammed, you don't keep mashing the broken plastic.
No, you just get frustrated.
Exactly. You program a single rehearsed input, a hotkey that reliably executes a complex output, completely bypassing the damaged hardware.
That is an excellent way to frame it. And it really establishes his core definition of redevelopmental psychology.
Which is what, exactly, in his terms?
The sources define it as the deliberate, engineered reconstruction of missing, damaged, or never developed psychological functions.
So not just coping.
Right. David didn't go to therapy to learn how to emotionally cope with his stutter. He wrote a firmware patch to bypass the bug, and he tested it in high-stakes reality. He proved to himself that the brain's operating system could be hacked and patched.
But, a patch is just a patch, right? You still have to deal with the underlying hardware eventually.
You do.
And the logs reveal a crucial detail about his stutter. His physical tongue tie wasn't actually released until the summer of 1978, when he was around 18 years old.
And it wasn't released by surgery, which is the crazy part.
Yes. The logs explicitly state it was tied by psychological imprints and reversed by re-imprinting. Wait, how does a psychological imprint physically tie someone's tongue?
It speaks to the profound physical power of our mental software. We often think of psychology as abstract thoughts, just stuff in our heads.
Right.
But severe trauma or anxiety can manifest as chronic, deeply embedded psychosomatic tension. The muscles in the jaw, the throat, the tongue, they can literally lock up based on a software instruction.
Like a protective mechanism gone rogue.
Exactly. Through intentional psychological reimprinting, David managed to send a new signal to those muscles to finally release the physical scripture.
So the hardware limitation was actually a deep software lock the whole time.
Yes.
But even after that physical release in 1978, the guy didn't just suddenly start giving TED Talks.
Oh, no. He had to actively teach himself to speak from scratch.
He had to deliberately build the neurological speech functions that most of us develop automatically when we're toddlers.
Which requires a map of how the brain processes information. And he found that map in the early 1980s when he discovered neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP.
Okay, NLP.
Specifically, he read a book called Frobs into Princes and encountered the eye accessing chart. The AI logs note that this chart logged into his mind and fundamentally shifted his trajectory.
Why an eye chart? I mean, I know NLP looks at how language and behavior intersect, but why were eye movements the big breakthrough for him?
Because the eye accessing chart posits that where a person looks indicates exactly how they are accessing internal information.
Oh, like if they're looking up or down?
Yeah. If I ask you to picture a purple elephant, your eyes might briefly dart up and to the left, indicating visual recall.
Okay.
If I ask you to remember the sound of your mother's voice, your eyes might move laterally, accessing auditory memory. For David, this was revolutionary. It meant that invisible internal cognition had a visible, readable user interface.
It proved there was a diagnostic screen for the wetware.
Precisely. And if you can read the interface, you can start writing new code. This realization directly powered his 1985 vision of a BCL, or brain-computer link.
Right. He realized you could systematically access and rewire internal processing.
Yes.
He didn't stop with his own wiring. Let's jump forward to 2010. David is running something called the NLP Action Games. And he's moved far beyond his own speech.
He's way beyond.
He creates a custom memory recall, new part, named George. And he installs George in a client who had lost their memory due to a traumatic brain injury and a coma.
Which sounds impossible.
Right, hold on a second. I get programming a macro for a stutter. But this is a person with physical organic brain damage from a coma. You can't just install software on a broken hard drive. How is that mechanically possible?
It's a vital distinction, and it goes to the heart of neuroplasticity. According to the BCL framework, David was absolutely not trying to repair the damaged biological circuits.
So he wasn't fixing the broken part.
No. The organic tissue in the hippocampus, or wherever the injury occurred, was compromised. Instead, he used NLP anchoring to build an entirely new bridge.
How does that work in practice?
Well, think about how state-dependent memory works. Sometimes a specific smell instantly transports you to a childhood memory.
Oh, yeah, like the smell of pine needles or something.
And that's an anchor.
Ooh.
David used intense, calibrated sensory anchors, perhaps tying a specific physical touch or a kinetic motion to a physiological state of certainty to construct a rudimentary functional retrieval path.
And that path was George.
Exactly. George was the name of this newly engineered psychological part. It was a third-party application designed to retrieve information routed through intact neural pathways, bypassing the damaged sector entirely.
That is wild.
It proved his mental software could scale to external users.
Okay, so if he's proving he can install upgrades in other people, that introduces a massive variable, human interaction.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't just have people hacking their own brains and walking out into society without a rule book. And the sources outline this incredibly detailed structure David built to manage this, called the military analog stack.
Right, starting from the physical body and moving outward.
So the base layer, the foundational code, is from 2010. He calls it the infantry layer, or the 5 reflexes.
These are purely physical, somatic skills.
Yeah. If you are listening to this right now, pay attention to how you are sitting or standing. Are you shrinking yourself? Reflex 1 is simply taking up space with whole organism breathing, standing shoulder width apart and breathing deeply into your core.
Grounding yourself.
Reflex 2 is push establishing your physical boundary with calibrated rapport. Reflex 3 is pull inviting connection. Reflex 4 is a nonverbal usher guiding someone's physical movement, using pushing and pulling without speaking.
And then Reflex 5.
Right, Reflex 5 is a verbal usher using voice and gesture to direct someone without touching them at all.
Notice the progression of those reflexes. It moves from internal somatic grounding to physical boundary setting to energetic and verbal leadership.
It builds up.
He is arguing that you cannot navigate complex social dynamics, let alone rewrite your mental software, if you don't first claim the physical space your organism occupies. It installs an automatic, embodied response for personal power.
Which sets the stage for moving out into the world. That's the cavalry layer, developed between 1978 and 1982. He calls these the 3 laws of driving.
The rules for moving through life at speed.
Yeah. Law 1, Don't have accidents, meaning don't cause them, don't cause others to have them, and don't get sucked into someone else's drama.
Crucial point, avoiding the drama.
Law 2, don't get tickets, keep moving forward without triggering systemic penalties. And Law 3, be courteous. And the operating principle for Law 3 is fascinating. The power to yield is the power to control the flow of traffic.
That phrase completely redefines control.
It really does.
We usually equate control with aggressive dominance, forcing your way through. But if you can yield without losing your objective, if you can accommodate the momentum of others smoothly, you actually dictate the rhythm of the entire interaction.
It makes sense in theory. But then the sources showed David applying these 3 laws to a literal high-stakes situation. He developed a protocol for turning traffic stops into courtesy stops.
This is where it gets intense.
The rules are wild. Pull over where there are witnesses. Get out of the car before being told to. Keep your hands visible and open. And sincerely thank the armed officer for the courtesy stop.
Yeah.
Wait, getting out of the car before an armed officer tells you to? That goes against every survival instinct and legal advice we are ever given. That sounds like a great way to get shot.
It does, and it is undeniably high risk. But we have to look at the mechanism behind it, what David calls his scripting theory.
Scripting theory.
Of the why. The goal here is to fundamentally shatter the default script of the encounter. Think about a standard traffic stop. The default software script for both parties is adversarial tension.
Oh yeah, everyone's adrenaline is spiking.
The officer approaches expecting fear, defensiveness, or aggression. It is essentially a tense tax collection event.
Right.
So by getting out slowly, with hands completely open and visible, and reframing the interaction verbally as a courtesy stop, under what he calls ancient common law, he is forcing a massive pattern interrupt.
Now, to clarify, ancient common law here isn't some sovereign citizen legal loophole, right?
No. He uses it to describe an archetypal peer-to-peer honor system between 2 humans. He is using high-level mental software to compel law enforcement to step out of their adversarial script and see the driver as a cooperative peer.
But to pull that off without escalating the danger.
That is exactly why it requires total mastery of the infantry-level somatic reflexes. You have to maintain absolute internal grounding. If you project even an ounce of nervous energy or hidden aggression, the officer's instincts will trigger. You have to embody pure, calm courtesy to rewrite the interaction in real time.
Okay, so we have physical reflexes, and we have tactical laws for moving through the world and interrupting conflict. But how do you measure success in an operating system like this?
You need a metric.
Every system needs a metric, a way to track value. And David's OS runs on something called the coin of the realm.
This is the economic engine of the entire framework. The coin of the realm is the universal medium of exchange in his upgraded human OS. And the technical term he uses is causative psychological equity.
Causative psychological equity. That is a heavy, dense phrase. Let's translate that. How do you actually mint this coin?
It comes from the action games.
Right. The logs explain it comes from the signature rule of his NLP action games. The rule asks, when today is said and done, what will have been the most inspiring thing? 1 that happened to you, or 2 that you saw happen to another, or 3 that you caused to happen today?
It's that third option. What did you deliberately cause to happen for someone else?
And that wasn't just a nice thought, was it?
No, it was a ruthless operational standard. To even participate in the action games, you had to demonstrate that you were willing to build a positive psychological resource for another participant before you could ask for help with your own issues.
Think of it like a communal credit score or an emotional bank account.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You cannot make a withdrawal. You cannot ask the community to help fix your mental bugs until you have made a verifiable deposit by creating a positive outcome for someone else.
You can't fake it, and you can't just hoard good intentions. The equity only exists when it is causative.
Kind of like karma that has been digitized and put on a psychological blockchain.
I like that analogy.
And the sources break this economy down into 4 stages of capital. Stage 1 is work. Stage 2 is royalties when your previous work starts generating passive equity. Stage 3 is freehold. And stage 4 is Sabbath capital.
Sabbath capital being the ultimate state of rest, freedom, and mastery. But to keep this highly structured economy from turning into a rigid, exhausting cult, he installed 2 crucial guardrails.
Ecology checks and breathing and dancing room.
Let's explain those.
Yeah. An ecology check means pausing before you act and asking, does this sustain the whole system? Am I creating pollution?
Meaning, if I execute this action, am I going to create unnecessary relational debt or legal drama or collateral damage that I'll have to clean up later?
Right. And the dancing room is the margin of grace. It's the reminder that this mental software isn't meant to be a straitjacket. It allows for human error and joyful improvisation.
What is so elegant about this economic layer is how it unites the tactical with the ethical. You cannot progress to stage 4, to Sabbath capital, if you are out in the world causing accidents.
If you violate the 3 laws of driving.
Exactly. If you are constantly getting sucked into other people's drama or causing harm, you are creating pollution. You are draining your own emotional bank account. The ethics aren't imposed from the top down. They are mechanically baked into the system's ability to function.
So if you manage to keep your internal ledger clean, where does this 60-year project ultimately lead?
The final stages.
We started with a 6-year-old boy hacking his own speech to call auto parts stores. We moved to a social economy of causative equity. The final sections of these 2026 logs attempt to scale this entire operation up to the planetary level.
This is where we reach the apex of the military analog stack. Beyond the infantry and cavalry layers, we encounter the artillery and aerospace layers.
Artillery is described as long-range psychological ordnance. This is mass pattern installation.
Right. You aren't just helping one person bypass a broken memory sector anymore. You are deploying reframes that shift the behavior of entire groups.
He also pairs this with inner space operations, which is resistance training against what he calls psychochemical warfare.
And we should clarify that term because it sounds intense.
It really does.
Psychochemical warfare isn't about literal tear gas or external chemical weapons. It refers to the internal chemical dumps, the sudden floods of cortisol, adrenaline, or dopamine triggered by external stressors.
Like a boss yelling at you.
Or an enraging news alert, or a toxic interaction. Those events hijack your brain's chemistry. Inner space operations are the mental routines designed to halt that chemical hijack, ensuring you maintain total internal sovereignty over your own biological wetware, regardless of the external environment.
But the absolute culmination of the project is the aerospace layer and something called the Alien API.
Introduced in 2026.
Right. It is the final evolution of that brain-computer link vision he had back in 1985. The logs define the Alien API as the automated equities generator. Its explicit purpose is the mass-scale upgrading of the human OS.
See, up until this point, redevelopmental psychology was highly manual. You had to intentionally build a script, test the hotkey, or install a workaround like George, one person at a time. It took massive effort.
It doesn't scale easily.
Exactly. The Alien API represents a theoretical orbital delivery platform.
But is it literal technology, like a microchip everyone gets installed? Or is it a metaphor?
It functions more as a systemic framework, a socio-cultural OS update delivered via the interconnectedness of human interaction. If you design a system where psychological equity is automated, where the default mode of interaction inherently balances the coin of the realm, you bypass the manual effort.
So what started as a desperate command line hack by a kid in 1966 evolves into a mandatory over-the-air iOS update for the entire human race's consciousness.
Exactly. It frames the ultimate goal not as personal self-help, but as planetary infrastructure. The automated engine ensures that no human being ever has to suffer from a never-developed psychological function again.
Bypassing the whole gatekeeping of the self-help industry.
Yeah, it bypasses the scarcity of traditional therapy to distribute capability and balance fairly to everyone. It is the end-state mission of a lifetime of engineering.
It really is an extraordinary arc. We've traced the journey of a child who refused to let a severe hardware glitch stop him from connecting with his dad.
A really beautiful motivation.
Yeah. We watched him spend 40 years reverse engineering human cognition, developing somatic physical reflexes, and writing the laws of social momentum. We explored an internal economy built entirely